Hello and welcome to the Marriage Unmasked podcast with your host Adam and Karnitz.
Hi guys, we are talking about a topic that doesn't often get talked about. I think it's something that a lot of couples maybe they don't know how to talk about it, but they don't know who to talk to about it.
They feel really insecure and they don't really want to go there.
We are talking about what to do when your sex drive doesn't match your spouse's sex drive.
That can be a very challenging situation all around. And we've been there. We've been in that challenging situation where we are just not matching up, where one of us wants sex like way more than the other one. And that we've been through seasons of our marriage where I have not felt as much of a drive as my wife, which is an odd situation for.
Well, and we were kind of talking about this before, and Adam, you were talking about how because I've actually been unclear about what is his sex drive, because he has a struggle and specifically has had a big struggle with this in the past with being like the nice guy,
The
people
pleaser.
pleasing.
Yeah.
Yep. And so he just like, well, whatever you want, whatever you're in the mood for,
Yeah.
whenever you want to do it, we'll do it.
And I think the dynamic there then is that you become disconnected from what you really want. You become disconnected from your own true heart and what you're actually feeling, to the point that you don't even fully realize what you want in that moment, because you're so used to just doing what the other person wants. And that is your MO. And so when you're doing that for so long, and it's such a habit and such a pattern, then that you're so disconnected from your own desire that you don't even know when you want it. You don't even fully understand what your emotional feelings are underneath.
Talk about though why you even why do you even struggle with people pleasing? Why do you even struggle with being the nice guy?
Mostly because of how I was raised. I mean, I was raised in an atmosphere where that was, like, sacrifice was the virtue. So to sacrifice your needs was the good thing to do. So if you're going to be a good person, then it's all about making someone else feel good, not making yourself feel good. And so sacrifice was such a virtue that was really held up as the ideal. And when that's the case, you're not actually being true to who you are and who God made you to be, and your own feelings and emotions. You're really trampling those for so long that you don't even know, you become so disconnected from it, you don't even know what you want anymore.
And we didn't even realize that's what was going on for a long time.
For many years.
I think though for most of our marriage, it was like, we have 5 kids, right? So we're having babies and we're in we have had a lot of things,
Yes.
a lot of struggles in our marriage.
Yes.
And since Adam hasn't had a very clear sex drive, it's kind of, like I said, kind of defer to me. Well, and if I'm, just had a baby, or if I'm, up nursing babies or whatever, like for a long time, 10 plus years probably, of that affected things dramatically. I mean, we weren't having sex. I remember sometimes we were having sex like maybe once a month.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it even longer than that?
I think we would. I don't know if we ever went longer than once a month. Yeah. Once a month did happen.
I don't know. We don't have a little chart, but
we weren't keeping track back in those days.
No, but it was not like he wasn't bringing up to me like,
Right.
I have this need or I have this desire. It was just like, whatever happens,
yeah,
whatever.
however she's feeling. If maybe, and it's not that there was no drive there during those times, but I would suppress it. I know I suppressed it at times because I was feeling like I can't, or I have to sacrifice this now. Especially when the kids are small or when Kari's not feeling a certain way. I felt like, okay, well, this is just something else that I have to sacrifice, that I have to give up in order to love her the way she needs to be loved right now, or to please her the way she needs to be pleased. Not really realizing that many times she wanted initiation, she wanted movement.
Well, and what I think everyone wants, Definitely what I wanted was we want a masculine man. We want a man who knows what he wants, who is vocal about it, who
Goes
tells me,
after it,
yeah.
yeah, who makes, his wife feel desired and pursued.
Yes, not somebody who's always deferring to his
Right.
wife. What
Exactly.
do you want? What do you think? What's your decision?
Which, yes, for
How are you
years.
feeling?
And so for years, yeah, that was me. I was deferring to that all the time, and that wasn't helpful.
Mm-hmm. And when we finally started to get the masculine feminine dynamics, because we had it so backwards, like we were talking about, Adam
Yeah.
struggled with passivity. I was struggling with control and trying to feel safe. And so I was acting more in masculinity and in masculine gifts. And so we were kind of
Right.
repelling each other, honestly. When
Yeah.
you're acting outside of those gifts, you really kind of repel each other.
Right.
And so when we started working on that, holy cow, it was like fireworks explosions, right? Like we were like magnetically attracted.
Yes,
It
the
was
attraction
like
changed. So it was like another honeymoon.
oh, well,
Seriously.
we didn't have a
Yeah, our honeymoon was like right, I know. But it was like finally getting a honeymoon
yes.
phase.
It was like we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We like wanted each other all the time. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, just like so attracted because that is exactly what I desire in him is like that masculine strength and
Right. And I think what we weren't defeating each other in that anymore either. So like I was calling out your femininity, you were calling out my masculinity instead of like the other way around where we were almost suppressing each other's like true gifts. Like we were, the way we were taking over, like was not inspiring the other person to be more masculine,
right.
to be more feminine. We were getting into that pattern, and that pattern was such a long thing. So we were kind of just stuck in that until we were able to like learn and break free from that.
Mm-hmm. And we talk a lot more about this in our healing your marriage course. We have a whole module on
The
masculine,
masculine,
feminine
yeah,
gifts because it
yeah,
is a whole big, deep topic.
it's
But
huge.
my softness, my gentleness, my openness, that yes, inspires
Yes,
his strength, his leading, his
yes.
protection. His all those things. And so,
And my
and
strength and my like leadership and my like being very strong in who I am and what I want, all of a sudden that inspires the
yes.
softness and it inspires the desire for her to be more feminine and more,
Mm-hmm. And so when we got that like whoosh right on,
yeah.
then my drive went way high, and I was like,
He was like craving it all the time. I mean, I
I was like,
love it.
hello, anybody home? And I
And
was,
and yet, I wasn't all there yet. Like in many ways, like I wasn't fully like I think I was still stuck somewhat in the old
well,
thing.
maybe a little bit of that, but also it was a lot of his hormones too. And
Yes,
it was a
yes,
lot of him not taking care of his body well and being
yes.
tired and
Yep,
not
yep,
being a healthy, strong man either.
yes,
And so when he did certain things like started working out and working out,
yes.
like in an
Regular,
intentional way.
regular challenging workout for a man is so important. It changes so much, about how he shows up and his confidence level and so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big deal. And yes, taking some supplements that was also very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And just being
Getting
aware, yeah,
enough sleep.
enough sleep is a big deal too because yes, I'm working in. I mean, when we moved to Missouri, my job got in some ways more physical than it was in Minnesota, where I was crawling around in crawl spaces instead of working in basements and things, and I was tired. I feel like I was more tired coming home.
Mm-hmm. So
So
we
my
had, yeah, so
physical
we had
toll
this
off me.
like mismatched drive
Yeah,
for a little bit,
yeah,
and then we kind of talked it through and worked on it. So we get it. And I remember, I mean, it is a sensitive topic because
absolutely.
when you have a higher drive than your spouse, you might feel rejected by them. You might start to wonder, like, what is wrong with me? Why don't they want to be with me?
Yeah.
Um, have fireworks going off in the YouTube video. I have no idea why.
That doesn't make sense.
Okay,
yes.
anyways.
Distracted us for a second.
Yeah, we were like, there's fireworks. I guess what we're talking about is really exciting.
It's a hot topic for sure.
Anyways, and so, you know, it can be really sensitive because you can start to like have some thoughts about yourself, like just wondering like why don't they want me as much as I want them. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today is just like, you know, that you know, in what to do when you do have mismatched drives is to have lots of conversation. I encourage you to have lots of conversations, not just one, but to have continual conversations about it in a really non-blamey way, like where it's not like, I don't know why you don't want to have sex. You're, you know, you're just this and you're that, and you know,
that's just conflict.
Right.
It's just gonna
unhealthy conflict.
yeah, it's gonna.
And so you want to do it in a very like sensitive way, in a very compassionate way, where you are realizing maybe that spouse with the higher sex drive might be feeling rejected, and the one with the lower might be feeling pressured or might be feeling, you know, judged or
inadequate or judged, and it's good to set a time for it, like be intentional and schedule a time for this even, and just say, hey, we're going to talk about this. I'd like to kind of just like be prepared and to be at peace and to have a good like mindset for this, and this is our goal, like to set it up as an intentional goal. We have let's talk about these
we
things.
want to come to the like, we want to get to the same page on this. We want to have like a clear vision
because I think especially this topic can be something that you very easily brush off into the closet and you don't want to address because it is a sensitive topic.
You might hurt the other one's feelings.
You don't want to go there because it could cause relationship stress, or you know, it could cause a lot of things. But to be intentional and to lead in this area and actually set up a time to talk and really go through it
and more than once, not just
it's not
conversation
just
deal.
I don't mean to say
because as you move through it, you still need to continue to check in, like, hey, how you feeling, or where's your drive at, or you know, are you feeling rejected, are you feeling inadequate, are you feeling whatever, and so just kind of checking in.
We actually wrote part of the bonus with the Healing Your Marriage course is a check-in on sex and intimacy, which is helpful too because it has a bunch of questions to walk through, and that you could do that once a month, or you know, like once every two weeks or something, and really talk about these issues and have a little structure to that conversation, which would be helpful too.
So another thing, if you're thinking, okay, well, we have this mismatch drive, what do we do? Another thing is and we kind of talked about this a little bit too, is like, how are the hormones? Where are your hormones at? Because hormones play a huge role in this. I mean, as a former health coach, I saw this a ton in women, but it's also a big thing for men. I mean, I coach women specifically, but men also struggle with this a ton nowadays with the higher, toxic load and the estrogenic properties of so many products that are in our everyday life. Yeah. It really can cause men to become, to have higher estrogen levels, lower testosterone levels, to their energy dips, their masculinity drops, you know, all these different things can play. And like we were talking about, like stress, you know, a man might feel a lot of stress around his job or feeling like he needs to provide or be a certain way for his family. And that stress alone could be impacting his drive. So it's a two-way thing. And I want to say that too. There's a misconception out there that men should have a higher sex drive, right? Like you may have had that misconception yourself, like, well, my man, like, why do I have a higher? And I had that. I mean, I literally had that. Like, I was like, why why am I having a higher sex drive than my husband? Like, what's wrong here? Yeah. But that is a misconception. That's not like this is the rule, right? All men have to have higher sex drives than their wives.
It may be generally true. It's not necessarily not generally true, but
it may not be necessarily true.
But it doesn't mean that that's, you know, like always the case.
And I don't think we should apply pressure to men in that way either.
No.
So, okay, so definitely check on the hormones and address those. And then, like we talked about, really think about and reflect on the masculine feminine dynamic in your relationship.
Yes.
Are you dealing with some of the same things that we were dealing with, where it's like, he's showing up in a very passive way. He's letting her lead. He's letting her run the show. Or maybe she's feeling like she has to run the show because he's not leading, because he's not stepping out into that role. He's not, stepping into his masculine strength and allowing her to relax into him. It can be both. It's really, I think it's not like one person's fault or the other.
I think it is always a both and sort of situation, really.
Because when, like, for me, like, I was feeling like I needed to be controlling and like be dominant,
and some of that
to feel safe.
Yeah, some of that came from how you were raised.
Well, yes, definitely. It was a wound that I came into marriage with. It was a wound with men and feeling unsafe with men. And so then, and how do I feel safe with my husband? Well, I'm in charge, right? And I, run the show, and then I can feel safe. I can, but then he's, emasculated, and, so it's like, but then he also came in very passive, and he came in very like,
we had
well,
a very opposite ways of, our masculine and feminine gifts were off from the beginning, from when we came into the marriage, which made it a very, challenging from a beginning to our marriage, for sure.
Well, day one.
Yeah.
But so yeah, really reflect on those masculine and feminine dynamics, and get help if you need help with getting clarity. We are happy to help you guys. We want to speak on this topic a ton. This is something that we both are really very passionate about. This is something that we talk about that might make us different from other marriage coaches, is that we are really passionate about this masculine and feminine dynamic and those gifts, because we know how massive of a role it plays, and we also know that nowadays that dynamic is often off. We see it more and more and more and more in couples, is that dynamic is off. And so it's causing all kinds of issues, not just in intimacy, but in all kinds of areas. So yeah, for sure. And then the last thing I want to say, as far as like what to do, I would say there's other things that also contribute to intimacy. And I actually we have a whole mini course on intimacy, but we talk a lot about all the other ways to be intimate besides just physical intimacy. It really starts with emotional intimacy, with spiritual intimacy, with mental intimacy. Those other, I would say, prioritize those other forms of intimacy as well, to also then grow your physical intimacy. So let's say you do have a higher drive, or let's say, I have the higher drive and I want to maybe just inspire that or encourage that in him, or just, whatever, grow our intimacy. Well, then I'm also going to make sure that we're, he feels safe with me, emotionally, and with mental intimacy and spiritual and all that. And then pursue dating each other. Right? I mean, sometimes our marriages just kind of get left on the wayside. We're prioritizing the kids, or the kids are just taking over everything, it feels like. And your marriage kind of goes in the back unless you really intentionally pursue each other and prioritize that, and really show each other, hey, you matter most to me, in our family. Like, I'm here to pursue you. I see you, I want you, and I want to, spend that time with you. I think dating is really,
it's huge. It's really important, because you work on your connection, and really everything else in the marriage is going to, all the other distractions and all the other things are going to be so much easier to deal with if you are really in tune with each other, and really dating each other, feeling the connection, working on that connection, making that an intentional part of your everyday life. If your marriage is right, so much other things in your life, like how you interact with the kids, your work life, everything else is going to be put into a different perspective and really work well. And your intimacy is going to definitely, your sex drives are going to start to match more as you work on it.
And you don't have to ever expect to have exactly the same sex drives, right? Like, and it fluctuates so much, right? Like,
you can have different seasons of your relationship, or seasons of life,
and that's okay. And it's just, that's why the communication is so key, because how are you going to know the sex drives are fluctuating, and have that compassion or that understanding, if you're not talking about it? Right? This is something that you definitely don't want to. I know we used to not really talk much about sex, or maybe
it was almost like a subject that we just kind of, I don't know, we skirted around it.
I think we didn't know how to.
I think
we didn't know what questions to ask. We didn't know how to do
it. It is the tools, having the right tools to discuss these things in a like really healthy way.
Mhm.
And without those tools, you kind of avoid it because it is a sensitive topic, and there's a potential to create a lot of conflict and a lot of like pain in this if it's not talked about in a healthy way.
Yep. So just keep the lines of communication open and actually make it a fun thing. I mean, I like to make it like a fun thing. I mean, it is fun, right? Right. So we always believe that both couples should be enjoying pleasure every time that you are sexually intimate together.
Yeah.
And so, keeping those lines of communication is so key for that. And for, enjoying it together and not, feeling like you're left out or you're rejected or you're, misunderstood or whatever. So, well, I think that
about covers it. Yep.
All right, guys, we will see you on the next episode.
Yeah.